Hey everyone, Kane from VividChim here, and today we're taking a look at Marvel's Spider-Man Miles Morales by Insomniac Games on the PS5, the much anticipated sequel to the 2018 Marvel's Spider-Man, which you can check the review out by pressing the eye in the corner. I was very excited about this game when it was first announced, but my hype did die down eventually after some confusion about what this game actually was. But it is here now, so I think it's time we finally ask, Marvel's Spider-Man Miles Morales, how bad can it be? The story takes place over a year after the first game and follows the now Spider-Man in training Miles, who is being taught by Peter Parker. After a prison escort goes wrong, Rhino escapes and wreaks havoc across the city, being stopped by Miles at a building owned by energy company Roxxon, with Miles saving Peter in the process. After a brief conversation, Peter drops the bombshell that he has taken a 2-week vacation/work trip, leaving Miles to cover the Christmas season on his own. Soon after Peter's leave though, a group called the Underground led by the Tinkerer begins attacking Roxxon facilities, hunting for the mysterious Power New Form, and claiming that Roxxon CEO Simon Krieger is a murderer. You spend the game as Miles trying to stop the ongoing war between the factions. Now I don't want to start by discussing my criticism of Miles Morales' narrative here, so what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to talk about all the improvements it makes over the previous game, and there are multiple improvements that are made. Firstly, let's talk about the characters and their performances. The character relationships in Miles Morales are far better and far more believable than they are in the first game, and this mostly comes down to the wonderful performance by Miles, who honestly takes this game's narrative up a level. Then we have the city of New York, which is a vast improvement. Insomniac's decision to focus in on Harlem a lot more than the entire city really makes the world feel alive and lived in, as opposed to the original game where it was more of a backdrop, and felt pretty much interchangeable with any other big city in the world. In this game, you are introduced to the people of Harlem, not just the people in Miles' life, and that goes a long way. Further bolstering this, we have the Friendly Neighborhood app, which is a complete overhaul of the side quest system, and it is so much better than the original game. Because Miles Morales does such a good job at making you care about the people of New York, the jobs that felt like boring filler in the original now feel important. It's brilliant how this game builds off the weak points of the previous. I do have one problem with the narrative though, and that's that I don't like how it ends. It feels rushed and loses most of the emotional impact that it tries to build. The post-game is fantastic, and everything leading up to it is great, but it's just the last 3-ish missions that feel crammed in there. To explain a little more though, we have to enter the spoiler zone, so skip ahead or use the chapters to avoid them if you want. Early on you meet Miles' friend Finn, and it's super obvious that she's the Tinkerer, which she is. Now, I like Finn as a character, and I liked her and Miles' relationship and chemistry. I just don't like how she's an idiot for most of the game. She refuses to even listen to Miles, which granted Miles did lie to her, but for a super intelligent character to not even hear out a character who they know is also super intelligent, well, it just came across as unlikable and made Finn unrelatable, so when it came time for her self-sacrifice and her redemption at the end of the game, well, it didn't feel deserved. She'd spent most of the game putting innocent people in danger without ever listening to reason or just straight up ignoring it. I did not feel bad when she exploded. Then the real bad guy, Simon Krieger, is just arrested in a cutscene after it's done. No fight, no nothing. He's just slapped in a car and shipped off, which really flattens out the story for me. Finn wanted to stop Krieger to avenge her brother Rick, who died by Krieger's hands, so surely as her friend, it would make sense to do it for her after her redemption. Even if I didn't think her redemption was earned, I feel like it would have helped carry the emotional impact just a little bit more. I can't help but think that the game being so short, around 7 to 10 hours, impacted the narrative a little bit, which is a shame because everything else was great. I feel like it's almost getting a tad redundant at this point to compliment graphics on new AAA games because they keep getting better and better, but there are 3 major elements that I want to talk about, so let's start by continuing our conversation about New York, or well, specifically Harlem. Insomniac's decision to zoom in on Harlem allowed the dev team to put more time and effort into making a smaller area feel large. Harlem's design in this game is dripping with its own culture, and it's seen best at Rio Morales' rally. Just watch this scene. All the colours and sounds, it feels like a bustling city, it feels alive and it looks amazing. It also looks incredible due to its lighting and introduction of ray tracing. The way suits reflect the light in this game and the way light beams shining to buildings is awesome, and it helps it look real. Also, because I briefly mentioned it, pretty much all of the suits are winners in this game. Personal favourites are the 2077 suit, the classic Miles Morales suit, the track suit, and of course, the Into the Spider-Verse suit, with its suit mod that recreates the animation style of the movie. It's amazing. Finally, let's talk animation here, because the way Miles is animated while swinging around and fighting may be some of the sleekest animations I've ever seen. The way he transitions from stunt to swing is just so smooth. In fact, it's so smooth that it legitimately tricked me into thinking it was running at 60 FPS and not 30. Then I turned the game into its performance mode of 60 FPS and realized how wrong I was to even remotely think that. But it's so smooth and looks so great that it made me, who almost exclusively chooses frames over graphics, say, nah, I'm playing 30 for this one. Now let's get to the good stuff, because Spider-Man Miles Morales takes everything about the original's gameplay and improves upon it. Let's start with the combat, which is the most noticeable change, coming in the form of Miles' powers, which are far and away the best thing to ever happen to the free flow system in gaming. Insomniac interweaved the Venom powers and camouflage to take the already great feeling combat of Spider-Man and turn it up to 11, with new exciting moves to spice up your combos and keep the pace fresh. Making it so finishers don't use up your health regen means that players who aren't actually very good at free flow fighting systems can still get a kick out of seeing the cinematic beatdowns once in a while without ever having to compromise. Instead, they're drained of their Venom powers. Then for those who aren't skilled at stealth or perhaps got unlucky with their timing and don't want to reload, the ability to turn invisible makes it so you can easily get a second chance at taking the quiet route or avoiding combat entirely, and I for one think it's great. I'm actually very curious about how they plan to go back to Peter Parker after this, as his more basic approach to combat is a big step down in terms of fun factor. Now we have the activities, which are way stripped down in Miles Morales, and while there are still some obvious filler, looking at new underground caches and time capsules, at least they all have some purpose narratively speaking, and aren't just some random backpacks or photographs for you to collect. Then on top of that, one thing that I actually didn't mention last time, but I should have, is that they removed all of the token types that flooded this game and made unlocks frustrating. Instead, Miles Morales resorts to 2 token types for the entire game: tech tokens and activity tokens, and I couldn't thank them enough for this. It means that I'm no longer locked off from progress because I don't like certain tasks. I can just do it another way instead, which is what games should be about, letting players play and explore a world in their own way. Spider-Man Miles Morales is the ultimate Spider-Man experience in terms of its gameplay, and I'm very glad that I decided to pick it up with my PS5. But I can't help but feel a little disappointed by this one, because while it does succeed where the previous game fell short, it in turn both literally and figuratively falls short where the previous game succeeded, its narrative. It's a game that I enjoyed playing, but I couldn't realistically see me coming back to outside of maybe some DLC, or perhaps even a video that could benefit from specific footage. As it stands, it's a bit of a one and done experience, which is a tad disappointing when I played the previous game 4 times, not including the remaster released with this game. I did platinum the game though, which is something I only do for video games that I really like on PlayStation, so I definitely didn't regret my time with Spider-Man Miles Morales. It's just that I'm probably not going to regret never coming back to it outside of DLC. What do you guys think about Miles Morales though? Let me know in the comments section down below. Remember to press the subscribe button and the bell to be notified as soon as a new video drops, or press some of the ones on screen right now. I've been Kane from VividChim, I'll see you all soon.